Welcome to the G5, having our next installment of our Worker Bee series, where we deep dive into the G5 college football landscape with the folks that know the teams the best. Today, we will be taking a look at the Ball State Cardinals, who finished 4-8 in 2023 and wrapped up their 2024 spring practice with their spring game on April 6th. We have a special guest joining us today. He is a Ball State sports reporter for the Sideline Sports. He can be found at SSN_Ball State on X. He is Rob Calhoun. Welcome, Rob.
Hey, how are you guys? Thank you for having me
on. We're excited to have you on. We're excited to talk some Ball State football. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to covering Ball State?
I'm 25 years season ticket holder. Before this, before doing the Twitter thing, I wrote some for 24/7, Rivals, different things like that. Ran the old school message boards, did that for a while, and then just started tweeting stuff on my own personal page. And then the guys at Sideline got a hold of me and asked if I would like to take up the Ball State account, which was dead with a couple hundred followers when I took it over. And now we're upwards of 5,000. So for a MAC school, that is pretty darn good for what it is. So we're rolling along.
That's really awesome, actually. Luke and I, we know the struggles of trying to build a brand and build an audience. So when 5,000 is pretty awesome for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to do. You just you got to stick with it and build trust with people. Try to put out good, solid content. If I had advice to anyone, it would be honest, be objective. You don't always have to agree with everything, but it's all a matter of how you approach it. And I try to do that as positively as possible.
Absolutely. Well, Ball State,
while being objective, sorry.
Oh, you're good. Ball State had its struggles on offense in 2023, most notably the passing game, where they ranked 122nd in total offense, averaging 308 yards per game, 128th in passing offense at just 136.6 yards per game, and then 53rd in rushing offense, averaging 171.5 yards per game. They were 122nd in scoring offense with 18.3 points per game. Let's get to the position where it all starts on offense, and that is the quarterback. There was, I think everyone believed there was a quarterback battle this spring between Caden Simonza and Kyle Kelly. But then shortly after spring practice, Kelly entered the portal, but he has since returned back to Ball State. Can you tell us a little bit about how the quarterbacks looked in the spring?
Yeah, the quarterback, and for the last two seasons, it's been a Kelly Simonza kind of back and forth, one-on-one thing. At the start of the season, Simonza is going to be the Ball State starter. There's no, that's pretty well accepted, but Kyle is going to have an even further expanded role, kind of like a Tayshawn Hill type, usage in the offense. He will be lined up every possible way. He's one of the most athletic kids in the MAC. Staff realized that. Coaches realized that. Everybody got together. Everybody's on the same page. You may even see Kelly in a role you never envisioned him in before. So, keep your eye on that. But it will be Simonza to at least start the season.
So with the Kelly situation, is there anything like you can share with us? I'm assuming maybe he decided, hey, maybe the grass isn't greener and I should go back to Ball State, or
he had several offers. He had New Mexico State. He had some HBCUs. He had options, but he loves Ball State. The coaches got with him. Like I said, they realized they can't let one of the most athletic kids in the MAC just walk away. It's up to them now to find the best way to use him so it showcases his abilities.
Sure.
He can throw the ball. It's just when you've been second string, not getting enough snaps to really get out there. But they had to find a way to use him where everybody doesn't know. You can't just come in and say, oh, while Kelly's here, here's going to be a trick play, a quarterback run, and maybe a pass. Because defense is key on that, and they know. So it's up to the coaches to figure the best strategy.
Last season, Samanza, I guess he played his 4 games, and then I guess they just kind of make a decision, hey, it's probably in everyone's best interest for you to redshirt this year, learn some more, and then, to preserve that year of eligibility. Is that kind of what happened? Or?
I think so. He didn't play bad. I thought he played pretty well.
No, he played good, I thought.
Yeah, he played.
Especially for a true freshman.
Kentucky, Georgia. Yeah, what more could you want? We were at Kentucky, and he was making some great throws. Now, Georgia, any freshman quarterback's going to struggle against Georgia. It is what it is. But I'm not sure why they decided to go with Hatcher at that point.
Sure.
No, I mean, was never really discussed as to why.
All right, well, moving on to the running game, which took a hit this offseason, losing Marquez Cooper, Vaughn Pemberton, and Rico Barfield to the transfer portal. They do return Charlie Spiegel, who had a few carries there in 2023. How did the running back room look and shake out this spring?
Running back, you mentioned Pemberton. He has returned to Ball State. So he should be your number 1 now. And the kid has shown that he's worthy of the spot. He was behind Cooper last year. Cooper wanted, and also some say demanded a ton of carries. Vaughn probably thought it was better to go test the waters. Cooper transferred out. Vaughn came back in. A young guy to look out for is freshman TJ Horton. I've heard a lot of really good things about him. We also got a 2-time all-conference back from Eastern Kentucky to transfer in. You mentioned Spiegel. Spiegel's more of a fullback by trait, just a big straight-ahead runner. I don't know why we don't use him more in 3rd and 10 situations, but it should be Pemberton to start, and then either the Eastern Kentucky transfer or Horton splitting 2 and 3 running back.
Hey, you mentioned the Eastern Kentucky running back, Sloan. He was very productive at Eastern Kentucky. He led the conference in all-purpose yards with 1,636, rushed for 10 touchdowns, 765 yards on 143 attempts. He had 40 receptions for 467 yards and 3 touchdowns. Did it on special teams too. Do you think we're going to see him on special teams any way and every way they can get on the field?
He is a good get, and maybe he does start, but I would suspect it's Pemberton, but everybody runs 2 or 3 backs. But yeah, we just don't know anything other than how he's going to transition into, our level, but it shouldn't be a problem. He's going to be used a lot.
Awesome. What can you tell us about the highly rated freshman that will be in over the summer, DJ Williams?
Ball State really prefers redshirt kids, unless they are just, you give them the ball and you say, okay, we can't. DJ Williams is that kind of kid. He had offers by the entire MAC. So if he can come in and pick up blocking schemes and do the other things that are required to run the ball, then there may be room for him as well. But running back went from a weakness now to us being pretty deep, so we may not need to rush him out there.
With Caden Simonza back at the helm of the passing game, you would think that the receivers and their production should certainly increase. They do lose Ahmad Edwards to graduation, but the return receivers Queon Magwood, Ty Robinson, Malcolm Gilley, and Nick Presley. They also brought in a transfer, Justin Bowick from Eastern Illinois, and Trey Firestone from Purdue. How did the wide receivers look in the spring?
The wide receivers, to me, have been described as fast as we've had at Ball State in years. So that will be good. We are also operating with a new offensive coordinator this year. And I know the focus wants to shift back to more balanced as opposed to run heavy. I've heard Ty Robinson is 100% healthy, ready to go. He transferred in from Colorado last year, and he played really well at Kentucky, had a couple big touchdown catches, but then was injured. And then we just fought injuries at wide receiver all year. I love Magwood. We've always waited for this kid to bust out. He had a preferred walk-on spot at Ohio State as when he was coming in, but as of yet he hasn't busted out, but I hope he does this year. And I like the Bowick kid. He did some things in the spring game I really liked. And Gilley is another guy that you could watch out for. Malcolm.
Do you think Ty Robinson's kind of poised to take over the wide receiver one role in this offense?
Absolutely be the one. Yes.
Yeah, before he got hurt, he had a great game at Kentucky there with Simonza. It seemed like the two of them really had a good connection.
Yes. They will be good together, and then I think you'll see Kelly coming out of the slot some, which will add another, dynamic to it. That second wideout over on the other side, it will be a Gilley or a Bowick or the Purdue transfer. I have not heard much from yet, but I've heard he's really fast. So, quite again from a weakness into what seems to be on paper, a pretty decent squad of wideouts.
Well, staying with that passing game, let's move over to the tight ends. They lose Brady Hunt to South Carolina, but return one of the top tight ends in the G5 and Tanner Koziel. How did he look in the spring, and what do you think is in store for him with this new offensive coordinator here in 2024?
Tanner, he dipped into the portal for a second, was going to go to Louisville, decided that, again, he liked Ball State. He decided to come back. Usage-wise, we're going to use him a lot, as we should. He is kind of the hybrid tight end, wide receiver type, big target, fast. So, he will be almost an extension of the wideouts. And we'll use him in some different ways. But yeah, and he and Simonza are good friends. They have a great connection. Koziel is one of the best dudes on the team. He is a great guy, and he's going to do big things this year.
So the offensive line took some losses this offseason with Damon Kaler, John Mucciolo, and Brandon Malkow all graduating and Corey Stewart transferring. What did Ball State do to shore up the offensive line in the spring, and how did they look?
Well, Mucciolo, he's still here. He did not. Kaler decided to come back, along with All Mac. Ethan Crow decided to come back. And we also have freshman Tyrone Towle. So he'll be a sophomore now. So really all those losses, they all decided to come back. So again, what was looked at as a weakness, now you have fourth and fifth year seniors out there that we weren't expecting back that are now all back and ready to go.
So now you got, this offensive line. You got a lot of people coming back. You got the running back room who got stronger. If you had to pick out a offensive player to have a breakout type season here in 2024, Rob, who are you picking?
Simonza. I think he's going to be really, really good. Koziel, I don't know if you can say he's going to have a breakout season. I think he's just going to have a really good expected season. Ty Robinson, again, it would be considered a breakout season, but not to me. I think he will be a 1,000-yard receiver. And then, everything kind of comes back to Kelly in a way, too. Kelly could be the breakout season everywhere, so there's a lot of weapons out there, and I'm excited. Offensive line, I'm going to step back to just a second. They need to improve a little bit on what they did last year, and if they can do that, we should have a pretty good offense.
So Simonza, if people aren't familiar with who he is, we kind of talked about him a little bit at the very beginning, but what's his kind of play style like?
I'd say he's not much of a runner, but he can run if need be. He's a smaller quarterback, good arm, good accuracy. He's from California, and he played in one of the toughest high school conferences in the nation. And so he's played top level kids and top level competition. So he's kind of seasoned. I mean, he's got a good head on his shoulders. He knows the game.
All right, moving over to defense with Jeff Knowles taking over as the defensive coordinator. What changes can we expect to see in terms of defensive style and personnel?
I think we're going to stick with the same style. I don't think we're going to change a lot of stylistically. Personnel, there was quite a bit of turnover in personnel, especially in the secondary. And I've said it a million times, and I'll say it a million more. You're only as good as your offensive line and your defensive line. And frankly, our defensive line has to produce better and more consistently than it did last year.
Well, that defensive line lost a lot of production in 2023. Makari Siblis, Jack Sape, and James Maxson all graduated, and then Tavion Woodard transfers over to Boise State. How did that unit look in the spring, and did anyone stand out to you?
Yeah, there's definitely some holes to fill on that unit. We got several up and comers that should be good, but I got my notes here. Let me find it. Sorry. Right. Keontae Newsome. He will be the leader of the defense this year. And he'll line up with that outside edge. He should be able to bring a lot of pressure from, on the defensive side. And that's what we need is pressure. And he is healthy, ready to go. I've spoken to him a couple times. And he loves the new defensive coordinator, and he thinks we'll be all right on defense. So if he's correct, then hopefully we have a bend but not break mentality around here. And over the last 6 games last year, there wasn't a defense in the MAC better than ours. We were downright dominant at times, but we have to do that for a whole season.
So you mentioned Keontae Newsome. You guys do lose second leading tackler Cole Pierce and Sidney Houston Jr. How did the other linebackers look in the spring, and did anyone step up to kind of take over Cole Pierce's role?
The spring, we didn't really have a game. We just had drills and everything. So defense was so hard to really pick anyone out or anything on defense from the spring game. We got a redshirt sophomore who I really like, Ben Marsh. No one's ever heard of him except me, but I expect Ben to do some strong things there. And so watch out for those two. And then we'll fill in spots. Losing our defensive coordinator to Boise, definitely not a good thing. Stockton was one of the best upcomers in the game. So it'll be interesting to see how the defense does do.
All right, Ben Marsh, when you hear this, remember, Rob was on you very beginning. He believes. Go dap him up there on the sidelines.
I believe in Big Ben, so we'll see. And he played a little. He was injured. He did come back, play a little special teams for us last year. So he's not entirely new, but big kids, Ohio area, Ohio linemen and linebackers, they're always pretty decent and nasty. So
that's what you want. You want nasty defensive players. So let's get back to the defensive backfield that took its share of hits as well, losing Jordan Riley to Kansas State and Aljaric Mallory to the graduation. Lauren Strickland and Damian Charity also to graduation. They returned Tylen Baldwin and Jordan Coleman, among others. How did that unit shape up in the spring?
As I said before, it was kind of hard to see that. Jordan Coleman, definitely a guy to watch out for. He plays really well. We got a transfer coming in from BYU, George Udo, who did, looked good in the spring. We just picked up a transfer from Iowa State last week, Miles Norwood. So I'll be anxious to see what he can do. You mentioned Ty Baldwin. He'll be out there probably at a starting corner. The second corner might be a transfer last year. D.D. Snyder, he transferred in from Illinois. So there's a lot of unknowns, but hopefully one or two of these transfers can join Ty Baldwin and Jordan out there and shore up the back end. And like I said, you never know what you may see. So there may be a surprise for you coming in on the defensive side of the ball.
Did anyone step up to take over Jordan Riley's role? Who you project to do that? Maybe
that would be. I would guess that would be Udo or Coleman might flip flop. Slide back or. But Udo, I think, is in there. I'm not sure where the Miles Norwood character guy fits in. He may be someone to do that. But Jordan Riley is definitely a huge loss. It'll be hard to fill those shoes for sure.
Well, Rob, if you had to pick a defensive player to have a breakout type season in 2024, who would that be?
I got to go with two. I got to go with, and again, it would be Coleman or Newsome. I think Newsome I think he has some pro potential. I think it's his year to really bust out and make a name for himself outside of Ball State people.
Now that spring practice is over, is there a position group or groups that you feel is the most concerning? I know defensive back sounds like maybe the one just because it's an unknown, but are there some others?
Back is unknown. D-line is unknown. My main concern right now is D-line. Just because it's such an integral part of everything. I mean, if you're if you can't get pressure, then you
could have 5 Deion Sanders back there. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. I mean, and we weren't great at pressuring last year. We got better. Like I said, Stockton got us into shape those last 6 games where I think we were in all 6 and we ended up winning 4 of them after, or 3 of them. And we were in every game. So we did, get better. So if Knowles can carry that over and the D-line can step up, I'm not saying we're going to be great on defense, but no one in the MAC is great on defense. Everybody kind of does the bend and break, turnovers, win the turnover battle, win the game is typically how MAC football is. So don't turn it over, grab a timely one, and should be good to go.
So, they've had a lot of recent additions from the portal. Is there any particular position you think that you might still be looking at to bring folks in from the portal?
Yeah, I mean, I would say defensive line, and I don't know that they're done with secondary guys either. But it's getting rather late. But I mean,
Sure.
we took some guys in the midsummer last year. So if there's guys out there, they're gonna probably some JUCOs. See if any of them stick. JUCOs are tough, but you can get some good players.
All right, so we talked about a little opportunities for Ball State here, but what's the main strength of the team?
I think we're going to be pretty offensively sound. I would say with getting Pemberton back and the Eastern Kentucky transfer and TJ Horton, I think the running back will be really good. And I really think Ty Robinson's going to show some stuff on the receiving side of the ball. And I'll give you a name here. Here's another one. RJ Mukes. He is going to be a redshirt freshman. Kid's electric and dynamic if we can get him out there and figure out a way to use the ball. He had a couple nice plays in the spring. Just not a big kid, but a real small, quick, run around, blurry kid. So they're always fun.
And you talked about that running back room, getting a bunch of guys back. How do you think that running back room split goes? Running back by committee, 50-50, 60-40?
In our best years, we've typically used 3 running backs quite a bit. And it would go, typically in the past, it would go a couple series for the 1, a series and a half for the 2, and then every 4th or 5th series, the 3 would get 1, or the 3 would be a guy who has some other option. You know what I mean? That he can do some other things. Like we've converted receivers into running backs and start throwing some gadgetry or some speed, some speed runs, speed options, wheel routes, all kinds of stuff from that 3rd running back kind of guy. And then you mentioned Spiegel, and like I said, that dude he's 260 pounds of muscle, but it's straightforward, no shimmy, no move. I'm just gonna run you over and try to hurt you. So I don't know why he isn't used in every 3rd and 1 situation that we have, but hopefully maybe that will happen.
So when it comes to recruitment of new players and retention of existing players, the NIL and transfer portal are, That's today's college football world. It's a big deal for everybody. What
Absolutely.
kind of impacts have you seen that have there at Ball State?
Man, I mean, over the last 2 or 3 years, we have lost so much. We've lost good players to great schools. I mean, Carson Steele to UCLA, Brady to South Carolina, Jordan Riley to Cincinnati. I mean, I don't want to say we've been hit the hardest in the MAC, but our losses have been significant losses of really, really good players going to really, really good schools. And you don't replace that type of those guys with, you know, it just, it doesn't happen. So you hope to develop some new guys and have them slide into those roles. I mean, I say every year our secondary is a problem. Every year we're putting another one in an NFL camp or something. Out of the last 6 years, we have 6 DBs playing in at least camps or practice squads or something. And every year I've said, DB's a problem. But yet here's somebody steps up. So we've done a good job at bringing in and developing guys. And most recently, Nick Jones, Super Bowl champ. Gotta give Nick a shout out while we're here.
Does Ball State have a collective? And if so, like, how long has it been around?
We do have a collective. We have Feed the Bird. It's been around for, I want to say it was launched last year. It's called Feed the Bird Collective. Everybody gives some money to them. They do a lot of good things. It's not huge. We don't play a lot of players. We do try to give to our best players. We're paying, I think, about 32 kids across sports right now, which isn't a ton, but, you know, it's basketball and football are most of those 32 players. So, yes, we do have a collective.
It seems more and more that the demands of the head coach are really turning into more of a general manager type role between recruiting incoming freshmen, transfer portals, retaining your own player, fundraising, and getting away from the X's and O's type of role and, you know, coaching what all the guys got into it for at the beginning. Do you see that trend happening there at Ball State?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, recruiting's a 24/7. It's always been kind of 365 days a year. But now it's beyond that. I mean, you're recruiting your own. You're trying to keep your own players while there's no tampering going on. But everybody knows these guys are talking. I mean, there's tampering going on. I mean, we've mentioned a couple names, and I can tell you that I've talked to those people, and they said they were contacted every day last year by schools. So, I mean, it's happening. So, as a coach, now you're fighting that. Now you're looking to the portal. You're not taking as many high school kids because, frankly, why would you take a kid you know nothing about when you can look at the portal and find someone who's played in a college atmosphere, and maybe they are like a Ty Robinson, who is at Colorado, and Deion said, I don't need you anymore. But you look at him, and you know that he's played a few snaps at Colorado, so he should be able to come to the MAC and at least do that. Whereas you take a senior in high school, you have no idea. I mean, for every 3-star recruit that hits, and that's what we're dealing with at Ball State, for every 3-star recruit that hits, there's 3 that never see the field. So, I mean, as a coach, you're better off to take someone who's already seen maybe even a little bit of action than you are to gamble on a high school kid. And it's not really fair to the high school kid, but that's college football. And then if you do get a good freshman, his sophomore year, he's going to, as it stands right now, leave and the process starts over, and here you go.
It's funny you kind of mentioned tampering. I just saw something about the NCAA basketball teams thinking about getting rid of the handshakes after the games because a lot of the tampering happens in the shaking of the hands line.
I mean, I don't think that necessarily is going on at Ball State. It could be, but I don't think that is at all the issue. I just mentioned it as other coaches or maybe not even coaches, contacts of coaches, of people calling,
handlers, whatever you want to call them.
Handlers, one of the players we mentioned earlier told me face to face that every day last season he had representatives of schools calling him after every game, every day, saying that, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And he would have no reason to lie about that. I mean, it is
what happens everywhere. Yeah. It's unfortunately it's the world that we're in today, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe some point soon, the Power Five will do their own thing, and NCAA will grow a pair.
I'm not against NIL as the way it was originally perceived at all, and I think if these kids should be able to get something for what they for what they do, but whatever this has became now, it's like the Wild West. I mean, it's just pure insanity. And
it's like the NIL is kind of that mom and pop shop giving things to people, the car dealerships from town, and then there's the collectives that's more of, and they're somewhat two different things, but it seems like a lot of the Power 5 and Power 4 teams, whatever, they're using that collective as like that NIL loophole, and it's like, all right, here's this money, come play for us.
Yeah. I mean, and it's it's like everybody's greasing each other's hands, but yet no one's coming right out and say they're doing it, but everybody knows they're doing it. And it was 10 years ago. What they're doing now is a death sentence, but now it's all, now everything is just, oh, well, go ahead and do it. So, I mean, they got it. Hopefully it levels out and there's some kind of balance, or at least some kind of restriction, something. And then the other thing that's terrible is some of these kids see, oh, well, I'm going to go hop in the portal and I'm going to go out there and make all this money. And then they don't get picked up. And this is from our level. We're talking group of 5 kids that it isn't there. And then they're screwed because now we've left our place where we could have gotten an education, number one. And well, I mean, is there even education in college sports anymore? I don't know.
I would assume that there's a lot of online classes being taken.
Yeah, that's part of it too.
All right, getting back more to the football talk, but the 2024 season is over. The dust has settled. You're looking back upon it. What has to happen for you to say that the season was a success for Ball State
this year?
Yes, this coming year.
It needs to be a success because if not, there's going to be some changes. It's pretty commonplace that new really needs to win this year. And I think they have put themselves in position with the portal and everything to do that. But I mean, and I hate to say I'm a weird old school kind of guy, but I mean, anything less than a bowl game and being very competitive in that bowl game, I think we could see some movement here as far as coaching. I hate to say that because I love Mike and our staff, but you just have to, you know, bare minimum 6-6, and I don't think 6-6 is all. It's middling, but that's what, you know, it's kind of the standard now.
All right. Well, hey, Rob, thanks again for sharing your time and knowledge with us today about Ball State.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me on. And to all my people who turned in for Ball State, go follow these guys, the G5 Hive on Twitter. They would love to have you. They're going to do a lot of teams. They are going to do all 64, right?
Yep, all 64 G5 teams, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, give them a follow, like their podcast, watch it. Chirp, chirp, everyone.
Absolutely. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're listening in podcast form, please rate and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thank you all for your support. And until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.